Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to today's conversation on Gifted Healing TV. I'm Sara Jane. I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host, Scott Holmes.
Hey there.
And our two guests, Nicole Peterhans.
Hi.
And Anné Klint.
Hi.
This is I believe it's the sixth in our series from the book that we all participated in. I didn't become selfish, I became harder to manipulate. So the series we've called Selfish or Harder to Manipulate. And I'm going to start with you, Nicole. Just share a little about yourself and a little about your chapter, why you felt drawn to actually participate in this book.
Sure, yes. So hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Peterhans. I'm originally from Switzerland, but have been living in the US for many years. Currently in Florida. And I've had on my journey, it goes back quite a long time of, living with a lot of fear, living with a lot of insecurities. And for a long time, just kind of accepting this and just like, that's just me, that's just who I am. And that's just what I have to deal with. And then I started, when I first moved to the US, we lived in Boulder, Colorado. And I call it kind of the candy store of everything holistic, and healing. So there's so much there. And I was really drawn to this and kind of started in different energy healing methods, Reiki, everything, just checked it out. And then I realized, having sessions with healers and all that, how I started to shift and how I was able to transform these fears and work through them. And also realizing one thing, I was never physically abused or anything. So I always looked at my childhood as something relatively normal. I mean, I can't complain really, I had a good childhood. But it was the emotional abuse that I experienced and that I didn't even know, again, for a long time, realizing the effect that I was suffering from that, and that my mom was actually a narcissist. I had no idea, I just thought this is me, and I just didn't know how to live up to the expectations, and follow the rules and all that, and so so I became very embedded in this whole personal development and really reclaiming your power and stepping back into your truth. It was part of my journey for many years now, or has been, and now in the meantime I also help other people go through their journey, and I just find it such an important topic and path, really. Because you can change everything. You don't have to live with those perceived flaw, whatever, fears, flaws, however you want to call it. So I found it very empowering, to know you have that power inside. So, and I wanted to share that. That's all. Yeah.
Thank you. Anna, same question.
Hi. I live in New Mexico, outside of Santa Fe, and I kind of accidented into healing work, just kind of when things broke down to such a degree that I could no longer really function physically or emotionally, or definitely not spiritually in the world. If you're highly sensitive people, I have a moon in Scorpio. I have big feelings. Like, that's real, and so remembering I have big feelings sometimes, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. And I can still just come back to being present with them and being present with myself.
Thank you. And Nicole, how do you define resilience?
Yeah, for me, I think it has shown in a little bit of a different way. I would call it more as my senses were really heightened by this, and because I constantly had to find ways to kind of survive in an environment, kind of like how can I still be safe? So, for example, I'm very aware, or I developed this awareness of what's, when I went into a room, I had to gauge, okay, what's the mood in the room? Do I have to hide? Should I better go to my room, or can I, stay in the living room? Where's the best way to be? So kind of have this awareness of what's going on and what is the mood of the people, and become very sensitive to other people's feelings. And obviously this has to do with me being a sensitive person too, and being intuitive, but it definitely has brought out this empathic side even more. I think I probably trained that unconsciously because I had to, just to be able to see what's going on, see when somebody's suffering, and having feelings for that, because I suffered, from harsh words or from just unkindness and, this kind of stuff. So I feel this has really helped me to, again, heighten my senses for what's going on around me. And then through that, becoming very creative. Okay, what's needed now, so that I can still be safe and that I don't get trampled on, or that I don't get, bashed, with words or whatever, criticized, judged, how can I find ways to get around that? And I've really become, I guess, very good at now in general in life to be creative, to find solutions. And now it's not about survival anymore, but it's just in general, with business and with just in general in life. When the kids were still home, okay, how do we organize this best? Their lives, what they need. And so just being very creative and find good ways, that work and that are efficient too. So, and I think another thing that it taught me was, I don't take things very seriously. I mean, I do take things seriously, but also a lot of things, I laugh a lot. I like to laugh, and I often see the humor behind something. And I think that's also something that I just needed, because otherwise I would have been even more, fearful or skeptical or insecure. And oftentimes then I just turned it around and saw the humor in it. And I still do that, I really often laugh, and I know sometimes I laugh and people don't like that because they take it seriously. I mean, no, they're offended, but it's not about offending. It's just kind of see the funny side of a situation, and me always finding the positive, looking for the positive in a situation. And I think that has really helped me to maintain that level and not, I've never been depressed or, falling in these lower emotional states that many people are. I think I've been able to, go around that because I've been focusing on, the positive and keeping that funny perspective in mind. So for me, I think it has shown more in these realms of surviving the manipulation and the control and the criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Sara, what does resilience mean to you?
I don't know. You can get through stuff.
Next.
and I love what you were saying, Nicole, about sort of the humor in things, because anybody who's watched numerous of these programs, you're going to find that there's quite a lot of laughter in it. It's not that we don't take things seriously. It's a matter of not taking things so seriously that it controls our lives and doesn't, because we're here to have fun and laughter. And so it's patience with yourself. And I think it's about, with everything, it has to start with self. So what is resilience? Does it mean you can get through things? What does it mean to each individual? Because if it's the one thing I'm learning with the way life is, one word can have so many slightly different meanings to everybody. In spite of the dictionary definition, what does it mean? So the fact that we are all here, having gone through what we've gone through, we have found, if you want to use that word, resilience. We've found a strength. We've found a courage to be able to get us to this point, get us to the point where we start having lost ourselves, to get us to the point where we've actually had the courage to find ourselves. Something has sparked. Whether it's something as drastic as a life quake, or whether it's sort of something less, what have we required to actually wake us up?
Yeah.
The fact that we'd lost ourselves in what other people have said, other people have done, in feelings of being rejected, and abandoned, of being unloved, unworthy, unwanted, not good enough. How many negative words can you find? Considerably more than you can find positive. I think what my youngest sister said, if you look at a dictionary, there's over 6,000 negative words to less than 2,000 positive words.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So how easy is it to find the negative rather than to find the positive?
Right.
So for me, it's about encouraging ourselves, allowing ourselves to wake up to who we are. And if that isn't resilience, courage, awareness, so many beautiful different things, that's what it's about. And can we laugh about it? Yes, we should absolutely be able to laugh about it.
Yeah.
And and persevering with things, is that not a part of resilience? Because I'm going to say hi to some of the folks that we've had here, and they've had problems hearing us. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the recording's perfect. So there's Amber, Leslie Ann, and Chrissy. And Amber has said, hooray, I can hear you all now clearly. So I've just said, if you've, so this is why I was occasionally typing. But because obviously if they couldn't hear us, then there was no point in talking. So if you've got any questions, those of you that are still here, have persevered, have found the resilience to stay present with us, then sort of please, if you've got a question, please ask it. Yeah, we're here to do that. Right, Scott, I'm going to chuck it back at you now.
So presence. And we talked about that. And when I work with clients, some don't even know what I mean by it. Some have never had it, truly. Some have had glimpses. I was talking with a friend of mine this morning, and she said, I think I found I was present more than I've ever been for the very first time. She said, I was sitting on my back porch. I was noticing the sunset. I was noticing the tree. I was noticing the bird, the slight breeze in my hair. She was reading one of the books that I had given her. And she uses that as kind of she stops her day and she just reads for about 20 minutes. And it is amazing how when you are fully present, and one of the reasons I travel so much is I always feel I'm much more present. Everything is on high alert. Smells, sights, sounds, people, connections. When people travel, they connect very quickly, right? And they're much more open to it, and they talk to the person next to them. When you're home and you're going to the same coffee shop, you don't turn to somebody and start talking to them arbitrarily. No, you just kind of don't do that. But when you're traveling, you want to know and see everything. For me, presence, when I am there, it's just awareness in that very moment. And it doesn't happen all the time. I mean, you've got to work at it. But when it happens, there's something truly magical that happens for me. And that is, I see things clearly without judgment, without any kind of obfuscation, without any curtain being drawn. There is a clarity there. And that's when I find I connect with people much more so. When I don't have any preconceived notions, any judgments about myself. or anyone else. Very hard to do. The judgment thing. Yeah, it's kind of tough. I was working with a yogini, and she said to me, I want you to write down every time you see yourself judging somebody. Now, for anybody who's ever driven in Massachusetts, you're gonna know that you're basically judging every other driver on the road and how they don't know how to drive. So after the first day, I stopped doing that because I just said, okay, they're going to drive how they're going to drive. I'm going to leave that go. But it was amazing how I made conclusions. I made judgments. There was that judge sitting here saying, what is she trying to do? Why is she doing that? Why did he say that? And all those judgments. And all of a sudden, it started getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it didn't rule me anymore. It wasn't the first voice that I heard in my head. So judgment went away. And when that happened, I was able to be present with what is, accepting what is, allowing without anything predetermined. So what does presence look like to you, Nicole?
For me, presence is when we're in our heart. So when we're out of the mind and really go inside. And I was for a long time, I didn't have any of these concepts too starting 2010 upward, that's kind of when I started to learn all these things. But I realized before that I wasn't really present either. I was just functioning and I was just doing what my head told me to do, and how to react and how to judge and how to criticize and whatever, whatever program that was activated at the moment, that a certain situation would bring forth, I would act on. And I didn't do this very consciously, but I guess through the work that I was doing, I slowly and kind of releasing all the fears and the judgments and everything and the insecurities. Because I guess it was a lot of insecurities and fear speaking to me, back in the days. And when I wasn't present, when I was just being ruled. And the more I worked through that, I was able to be in my heart center. And I'm not always there, but I try. I'm actually aware of it. For a long time, I would go in and out and then realize, oh, I'm up here again. Let's go down. And now I'm aware very fast when I'm not here and I can bring myself back. And it's actually really nice, as you say, we're the clarity that we have for life and just, I call it the observer, becoming this observer of just seeing what's going on, but not being disturbed by any kind of judgments or thoughts, but just watching it. And it's such a calmness that's coming, it's just so nice because it just feels like you're just sailing through life and just watching and it just feels very calm and yeah, having this observer status, being in your heart center and as much as is possible.
What tools do you use on a daily or regular basis that allows you to be able to maintain that?
Well, I don't really meditate, I have to confess, so it's not that. I think for me, it's really been coming more and more back to myself by clearing these old wounds and these programmings that you were talking about, Anna, just about the rejection program, the abandonment program, all the betrayal program was big for me too, and the more I was able to, and then all the negative, the limiting beliefs, they're not good enough, they're not worthy, they're not wanted, not capable. I carried all these beliefs as well, and the more I was able to release those, the more I was able to accept myself, and just be, and like, I don't care anymore if I mess up now, whatever, it's fine, just be, and in the past I was mortified, it's miserable. I would want to hide. I would, hide in my room for a week or something like that. And now I just laugh. I actually just had an example last week. I actually also just finished another book, and last Monday, a week ago, I had a big announcement, this Thursday my book is being published. Well, it didn't, because Amazon blocked me. And at first I'm like, oh my gosh, I announced it to the world, and it's not going to happen. And then like, you know what? It is what it is. You can't change anything. It's fine. And let's just go with the flow and fix this. And I sent out another post, and it was all good. So yeah, I think for me it has really been just releasing so much of the old baggage, I always call it clean up the basement, first you clear out the basement and clean it up. And then at one point you have cleared it all out, and then you can move forward, and then it's just kind of maintenance work that we have to do. And I think that's what helps me stay in the presence more and more so, to be past the basement, and maintenance comes here and there a little bit, but it's less and less, and I'm actually able to move forward and kind of focus on what's next, and meet these not challenges, but in a way challenges that are coming, but not meeting them with fear anymore, but with an open mind and with curiosity and with excitement. Whereas, in the past, things like that would stress me, and I just wanted to hide. I was afraid of tackling new things, and the old fear would creep in, and so. Do
you find that as a former perfectionist, do you find that I give myself a 95 now instead of 100%, because it gives wiggle room, right? That 5% is where all the things that can go wrong, will go wrong, can go wrong, and probably will. So does you find that not being perfect and not expecting yourself to be perfect has made a change in that?
Yes, definitely. Because we can't be. I mean, what is perfection anyway? Or that's kind of something that we build up in our mind too. It's some sort of a control mechanism as well. Only when we can do this and when we're perfect, then we can move on or whatever. So, I think that definitely helps to, just let it go and laugh. Laugh at it. Oh, it didn't work out, but it's fine.
Thank you. Thank you. Anna, what does presence look like to you?
Very similar to Nicole, it's very much about being centered in the heart and always coming back to that heart-centered place. We judge because it's a survival mechanism, I think, and we're wired to do it. And we also have two hemispheres in our brain. And I think we're constantly making these choices, head choices, left, right, wrong, right, good, bad, good versus evil, all of these things. We're really programmed to label everything because it helps us, determine lion in the bush, bad, tree covered with fruit, good, right? Like this is survival. And so coming back into the heart is singular. There's only one. And of course we have to live from the head in the world that we live in. That's necessary at times, but to come from the heart and to remember. And I don't really have like a conscious memory of doing this or saying this, but at some point, somehow, some way, I made some kind of declaration that I wanted to be a force of love in the world, that I wanted to come from love and add more love. Again, do I get that right all the time? No, I'm not perfect, but I don't also have an expectation of being perfect, and I can laugh at myself. I think humor is such an important part of the awakening journey because it's absurd, the things that happen on the awakening journey. And if you can't laugh at them, like, whoa, we need to laugh at these things because it's sometimes really wild. And so the other thing that I think happens naturally is as we are, and I'm curious how you all think about this, but as we are doing the work that we're doing with people, our ability to hold space is a direct link to our level of presence. And I believe that presence in itself is healing, because so many of the wounds that we're talking about, especially in this book, are relational wounds, and they have to be healed in relationship. They have to be healed with presence, with attunement, and really like showing up with that heart-centeredness in our sessions. And I think that it was easier. It's always been easier. Like me as also a recovering people pleaser. It's always been easier to show up for presence with other people, you know, to hold space and help people with their problems even before I was a coach and a healer, right? And then, but like you were saying earlier, Scott, too, about your journey, it's like, when did I learn to turn the presence lens towards myself and to say, I'm going to be deeply present to whatever experience I'm having, whether it's joyful and ecstatic, or whether it's painful, or whether it's boring. It's like lots of boring experiences that we have to do in life. And how can I constantly reframe and bring love to it and come back into that? And for me, that's, again, dropping into the heart. And, you know, heart math practices are amazing and so simple and practical for this, and just really are an easy reminder. So I find I do a lot of heart math with folks, and it helps me in the same moment. You know, let's grab into that heart space. Let's come back down. Let's expand from that space rather than trying to expand from up here. We need to get into the body, into the wisdom of the heart. And yeah, just love. And play and laughter.
Oh, plenty of play, creativity, laughter.
Creativity, totally.
Absolutely. I would like to touch on, because the topic, Anna, was post-traumatic liberation. Actually, it might be an idea. What do you actually mean by that?
I am still like talking messy about it and working it out, but I'm in a real kind of contemplative place around the healing journey and kind of the 5-year experiment that was COVID on the planet. And during this time, how many people came to understand trauma. And I see that as a really good thing, because we can bring consciousness to it, and then we can bring healing to it. But there comes a point in the healing journey, and it's kind of what Nicole was saying. It's like, you know, you clear out a lot of the basement stuff, and maybe some of the corners still have some cobwebs, and that's okay, because it's a basement and basements have cobwebs, and that's just normal. But what we can do, and what I see and what I've seen in my own healing journey, is the hypervigilance that we learned to practice as children because of our uncertain upbringings, or neglectful or abusive. We can then later in life direct that hypervigilance into our healing journey, and it's really counterproductive. And what it looks like is, if I just eat all the right things, then I'm going to heal my body. If I just do all the right, if I just meditate perfectly, then I won't have anxiety. If I just do X, Y, or Z perfectly, so this perfection thing is part of it, then I can have the life that I want, right? Then I can be healed. And so post-traumatic liberation is really kind of turning it up on its end a little bit and saying, well, what if you're healed enough? What if you don't have to go and, you know, take another training or do another thing, not because you just want to, and there's nothing wrong with that, but like, what if you could actually bring your soul gifts out into the world without needing another certification? Or what if you could paint that painting without judging yourself before you even get started, right? It's this idea that like we can start to really disidentify with those limits. And so one of the things to tie back to this 5-year COVID experiment is that we all became more versed in psychology, and unwittingly, thanks to social media, all of those horrible diagnoses in the DSM. And now so-and-so is a narcissist, and so-and-so has BPD, and I might have BPD, and and all of these things. And we're starting to pathologize ourselves in a way that I think we didn't used to, because we have this new awareness about the language around it. And I think that's poppycock, to use a polite word. And how can we disidentify? Okay, so yeah, my childhood was less than like perfect. I also was not abused physically, and have, you know, really had to come to terms with emotional abuse and emotional neglect, and the like just real basic needs that I had that didn't get met. And yet I can start to, without spiritually or emotionally bypassing it, because this is key, I can start to disidentify and decouple my identity from those experiences. And in that place is the liberation. So it's a tricky dance because it's about honoring what has happened and not shoving it under the rug or pretending it didn't, or just being, it's like all like unicorns and rainbows and sunshine and light and love. Like, we have shadow work to do. That's real. But we don't have to be in that shadow work all the time. Yes, we're going to go into that basement again because this is a spiral that we're on, right? It's not linear. It's not one and done. We're going to spiral around. We're going to excavate to another layer that we really wish we didn't have to. That's real. But then we can do the work. We can step out and not stay with it, not ruminate with it, not identify with it. I don't have all the answers of how to do it. This is something that's in process. I do feel like this is the evolution of where we're going. We do not need to be on a healing journey forever. We didn't come here only to be in a healing journey. We came here to do and expand and to share our gifts that are the result of that healing journey. That's what I believe.
Any thoughts, Nicole?
That's very interesting. That's nothing I've ever thought about, but I think that's really, I've never really looked at it that way, but I know what you're talking about with the identity. That's something that I've, come across and also had conversation about with some other friends. And I never really looked at it in this perspective as we're broken, basically, but it makes a lot of sense. I mean, that can be an identity too, or people who are always sick. I can see that, but I totally agree. And whenever we have an identity, we limit ourselves, because then we just, are focused on one thing, but we are not open to what could be, and so I think so too. We have to just release it all, and again become the observer. Oh, what's still going on? Does that need healing? Maybe not. Maybe we can do something else. Maybe we can wait a little bit or not, but we do not need to wallow or and kind of, because I feel that's also the other thing. If we constantly identify with some sort of identity, some sort of brokenness, we bring back the energy into our field. And then we magnify it and bring it really back, and it's really very counterproductive. And so instead we need to let it go and watch it. But that's, I would say, half the step already. If we can just let it go, watch it, and then down the road we can do something about it. But I agree very much, and I can see the liberation in that. That's actually very true. But it's with everything, like for me it came more up with, I'm a mother. I used to be a stay-at-home mom. I didn't work when my kids were growing up, and I chose that. And I identified very much as a mother. I loved it. I wanted to be that, But it was really hard for me to shift that and come into the working world and all of a sudden be having a business. And so I had to learn that, to just release it all. And it was interesting because it also there was some grief involved, because I love being a mother. Like, now I can't be a mother anymore, but now it's, I could integrate it now, and now I just see like I'm doing all these different things, but I'm not attached to one thing. And I think that attachment, when we can let go of that, then we get into the liberation. So,
yeah, I love that. And the grief, that's such an important thing to name, that we don't really talk enough about grief, and how when we are expanding and healing and growing, we do have to release. We're called to release those old identities, and that can bring up grief, and that's totally okay. Like, again, it's not all sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and glitter, and there's hard stuff on this journey, but it's beautiful also. Yeah,
very much.
I really enjoyed the way you phrased it. You basically took the work that I've been doing and put it in a different form, which was absolutely beautiful. This journey, I've written in 10 books now, and each one was a step that I needed to do, because I needed to tell my story. And in telling my story, I resolved it within myself. It didn't change the story, but it changed how I saw it, perceived it, felt it, how there was not overwhelm there anymore.
Yeah.
Because it would overwhelm me. If I tried to talk about my wife and my daughter, I couldn't even get through it. And now I use them, I can tell it, and it isn't my only story. The story that is me now is who I am now. Yeah. All of those, the little boy, the teenage boy, the young man, the young husband, all of those roles that I played, those are who I was. And I kind of kept a stranglehold on those for a really long time. And I really spoke through them. Even though I was 40 and I was 50, I still spoke through those parts of myself. And that healing, I did EMDR. And it really is amazing how you're in two places at once. You're going through the experience, and yet you're observing it at the same time. Much like we have all of life, we always have the observer, right, sitting up in the tree, just kind of looking, and you're going through it. And it took the emotion out of it. It brought understanding to it.
Yeah.
So that there wasn't fear anymore. There wasn't anxiety anymore. There wasn't anger anymore. It was all of those emotions kind of came out of it. And now I can just say, well, this happened. Yep. And then I can move on. And so that disassociation, that how we define ourselves doesn't apply anymore.
Yeah.
And that is wonderful. Miss Sara, what do you have to say about all this?
I find it so helpful to reconnect with the child, the inner child, not to relive what happened, but to connect with the child who has experienced it, so that the child can feel acknowledged. The quote by Alice Little, which I have repeated so often: as a traumatized child, you were desperately waiting for the adult that would come and save you. What you didn't understand was that it would be yourself as an adult.
Right.
And we are the only one who can heal our inner child. And for me, that healing is about acknowledging them, listening to them, so they feel heard, helping them to feel loved and cared about. My story is my story. It is never going to change. Does it have power over me anymore? No, I genuinely believe it doesn't. Because if necessary, I could stand here and tell you that whole sad story that really affects people with a smile on my face. Which seems sort of totally counterintuitive. How can you share what happened to you, which was so traumatic to that child, not just the accident, but then everything else that went with it, but smile about it, because I know that my little one is happy and comfortable and safe now. That is the most important thing. So inner child work. If you struggle to do it yourself, there are so many people who work with the inner child in different ways. Some do wish you to go back to what happened. Many people can't do that. So find what works for you. But I can be present with me. I am aware of the trauma. And I don't know whether it's letting it go or just completely acknowledging it and accepting that it was part of my early life.
Right.
That it no longer has to control me. So do we have to let things go, or just wish just to be acknowledged?
Right.
And different things work for different people. And I am gonna leave that at that, because I think it'd be easy to go on. But what I'm going to say is we're coming close to the end of the program. And I'd love to hear if there's any just little thing that each of you would like to share before we finish. So Nicole, let's come to you first.
I think my overall encouragement is just to anybody. I really loved what you said, Sarah. The story has no power over you anymore, and I think we all experience that here, and everyone can get there. You know, it's really within everyone to get rid of this and to work. I mean, that sounds very harsh, sorry, but to work through this and not to feel ashamed. It's part of us because we all have our story, we all have our past, and I look at everything as a lesson. Whatever I went through is a lesson. I made, I learned, and I'm now at the point where I can extend gratitude. I mean, a lot. Like even to Amazon, last week, I'm like, okay, thank you, I learned. But the little things that I learned. But right now, it's not. I don't get angry anymore or anything. I just see this as what has this taught me, and take it as that, and be grateful, but not be ashamed, not feel guilty or anything. But it's so possible to move forward and to shed all these layers of, pain and trauma, and really embrace yourself for who you are.
Thank you, Nicole. Anna.
So beautiful. Yeah, the journey is so worth it to do the hard work. I think it's so much scarier imagining how scary it is to do the deep inner work than actually doing the deep inner work. Right? We build it up to be this like hard, thing. We're going to go into the cave and face the dragon and all of this. And yeah, to an extent that's true. But what you're really facing is yourself. You're facing your inner kid. You're facing your inner teenager. And you're learning how to be with yourself in a really beautiful way. And so I love that. It's safe. It's actually safe to do this work, and it isn't selfish at all. And it's, and all of the work that we're all doing collectively is making a really big difference in the world. I don't think that we know that yet. It's not necessarily easy to see, but this is it. It starts inside each of us, and we all have the capacity, and we all can, change and heal and integrate. Really, it's about integration and really coming home to yourself. And life is just so much easier on the other side. Doesn't mean that there aren't speed bumps. Right. It just means that it's so much easier to deal with the speed bumps. So, and then you have something else to offer as well, which is beautiful.
Thank you, Anna. Scott.
There was a time in my life where I was asked what I was grateful for, 3 things. And at that moment in time, I could not name 3 things I was grateful for because of where my heart and my mind were. Now, if somebody asked me what I'm grateful for, I could go on for about 2 days. Seriously. So gratitude for me was the greatest gift of finding gratitude for all of those things within me. And the other thing about the shadow self and all of those things is psychology has always taught us to go down into it, to roll around in it, to get all muddy, and then we're going to get that really heavy shower, and we're going to blast the water, and we're going to take it all off, and then you're going to have to really transform it. And doing the work that we're doing, all 4 of us, that we have done for ourselves, but also for the clients that we work with, transformation can happen like this. When you allow, and allowing those things to happen is the hardest part. Because we always hold on to all those things we know, and it's uncomfortable and scary, the things we don't know, and what's going to happen and how's it going to be. Allow, and it's amazing the world that you will provide and create for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Each and every one of you, Nicole, Anna, Scott. I've put Nicole and Anna's website addresses into the chat for those of you that are still with us. I will make sure that all of our website addresses are under the video if you're watching on YouTube. For those of you that have problems listening at the beginning, hopefully that resolved and you were able to hear, and hopefully the replay won't have Any issues with it, I will find that out tomorrow. So thank you to each and every one of you. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for your participation in the book and for joining us and sharing here.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, I am being joined by Olivia Sanchez. The role of core values and beliefs in health and mental well-being. Mm-hmm. He's a nutritionalist and naturopath. So it's going to be a really, this will be an interview rather than a conversation, but I have the feeling from the conversations I've had with him, it's going to be really, really interesting and supportive of folks. So take care, be safe, stay well. Thank you to each and every one of you here live and watching the replays. Namaste, sweet souls.
Thank you so